Hey, welcome back tuning into today's video, doing the Japanese look ahead for the coming month with the JMA and also the CFS V2. It's going to take us into the start of December, can you believe, with this update. So we'll be leaving autumn behind, going into the very beginnings of the winter with today's update, only into the first couple of days of December though. So we've got a very mild air mass across the country at the moment. That's going to be staying with us for at least the next week. We may see a cooling trend though from the middle part of the month onwards, and we'll have a look at these long range models to see whether they are picking up on this cooling trend as we go along through the video. Before I get on with that though, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages at Gas Office. Have a browse through the widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most of the pages which open up in the content, and when you watch them they'll close back up again. It's all helping to pay for the website, so thanks very much for getting involved. And thanks for doing that. The Christmas shop is open, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, all you have to do is go to Christmas shop. You find the link to that just underneath this video on the home page. Click the button and it'll take you to the Christmas shop. And then from there you can either look for whatever item you want to buy in the search widget and click the link there and go through to Amazon, or alternatively, perhaps more easily, you can just click the buttons and you'll go directly to Amazon and be able to do your Christmas shopping as normal. But the key to it all is that you just click from GasNoviz to Amazon, and because you've done that, we get a revenue fee on the things that you're purchasing. So you don't have to do anything differently at all, except for clicking through the Amazon banners from GasNoviz to Amazon to do your Christmas shopping. And thanks for getting involved in doing that. It's all helping to pay for the website. So we'll get on with the JMA update. It's JMA Friday, as I say. We'll start off with 500 millibar height anomaly charts, broken down to weekly periods from Japanese model. The first week period will be taking us through the week that we're currently in, the 6th through to the 13th of November. So we've got a deep trough of low pressure through the coming week in the Atlantic. We've got this ridge here through central parts of Europe, and the flow and the jet stream is doing something like that. It's dragging up very mild air from the southwest. The driest weather is to the south of us, and the wettest weather is to the northwest of us, but it's all parts are unsettled with this. This is a deep trough here through the Atlantic, and it will be throwing in rain bands across the country through the course of the coming week. But as I say, the air is being dragged up from a southerly source in the Atlantic Ocean, so it really is a very mild airstream indeed. Now, the next weekly period, going from the 13th through to the 20th of November, looks like this. Again, still got this trough up to the west and the northwest of the country, but the ridge is actually building more across the central part of Europe and to the south of us. So, if anything, the jet stream is probably being pushed further north. We're probably losing the worst of the wet and windy weather. And there could be quite a lot of dry weather actually down in the south through that middle part of November. It's still very mild though, exceptionally so, with the air again coming up from a southerly source in the Atlantic Ocean. And then finally going through to the next 2-week period, which takes us from the 20th of November through to the 4th of December. A little bit of a change with this one. That ridge across Central Europe is going, or it's gone. It's looks like it's drifted off into the southeastern part of Europe, somewhere around there. And this trough in the Atlantic is sinking southwards. So it's a job to decipher quite what's going on. But I think overall, the jet stream and flow probably tending to go more to the south of us. So I think as we're going into the end of November and the start of December, this is probably signs that it's turning a bit colder. It would also be unsettled, of course. That trough is very close to us still. But it's generally centred a little bit more to the south and southwest. So with the ridge going across Central Europe, I think we're probably digging the jet stream further south. Now, it's not depths of winter severe cold, but I think it would be cooler or even colder compared to the first half of November. Have a look at the CFS V2 500 millibar heights. Again, it's broken down into week periods. So the first week period will take us from the 6th to the 12th of November. And it's identical to the JMA, really. Got this ridge here through Central Europe. Got the deep trough in the Atlantic. the jet stream and the flow going like that. So again, we're dragging the air up from a southerly source in the Atlantic Ocean. It will be very mild, but this is a deep trough in the Atlantic, so there would be rain bands being swept in across the country, despite the fact the ridge is quite close to the south and the southeast. The next weekly period, going from the 13th to 19th, a bit of a change here with the JMA, because at this point the JMA wants to build this ridge further from the south. Actually, the CFS is trying to flatten it off a little bit more, so the ridge is sort of going down towards the Alps, that sort of area. And this trough is up to the northwest, with the jet stream running right through the country like that. So this is still unsettled and probably turning a little bit cooler as well, but still mild. It's still a mild Atlantic driven flow, but I think it is very unsettled, that, especially for the north and the west. And then the next weekly period, going from the 20th through to 26th of November, this is quite an interesting one, because we've got a little bit of ridging appearing around Scandinavia and trying to stretch out towards Iceland. So the trough is sinking, the ridge I should say, is sinking down into the east and the southeast of Europe, and this trough in the Atlantic is digging down to the south. So overall the jet stream is probably going a little bit to the south of the country, rather like that. So that could certainly be a cooler scenario. It's still unsettled, that trough is still there in the Atlantic, but I think that's a cooler scenario again, with the jet stream tending to be shifted further and further southwards. So sort of in agreement there a little bit with the JMA. And then the final weekly period, going from the 27th of November through to the 3rd of December, into the start of winter. Again, the ridge is over in the east of Europe. This deep trough of low pressure is in the Atlantic. The flow is going a bit like that. And I think we're generally bringing in the flow on a northwest-southeast trajectory. So whilst it's not severely cold, it's not depths of winter. It is cooler, particularly compared to what we've had through the first half of November. And with a northwest-southeast alignment, and the air coming from off Greenland, that sort of area in the northern Atlantic Ocean, there would be the prospect of some wintry showers, especially for the northern part of the country. So a cooling trend here is in evidence, I think, from both the JMA and the CFS V2 for the second half of November. So these are the temperature anomalies broken down to week periods from the CFS V2, and the first week from the 6th through to the 12th, the current week, is exceptionally mild. This is really off the scale mild. The scale is on the bottom of the chart, and you see we're at least 3 degrees above average here with these colours, maybe even a little bit more. So a really, really mild week coming up. Could be breaking date records. I wouldn't be all that surprised if we did. We go through to the next weekly period, and this going from the 13th to the 19th of November, and it's still very mild, but not as mild as the first week, if you see what I mean. So we've gone from those sort of off the scale colours, which are on here on the scale, and we've gone back towards reds, which is still around a couple of degrees above average, 1 to 2 degrees above average, but it's cooler compared to the exceptional mild temperatures that could be on the way through the course of the coming week. The next weekly period, going from the 20th to the 26th, it's cooled again. So we're not colder than average, but we are back towards the seasonal average by the time we go through to that last week of November. So clearly a cooling trend is taking place here, from where we start off through the first weekly period, the coming week, to where we are by the 20th to 26th. We've obviously seen a cooling trend, albeit we haven't gone especially cold. And then the final week period, this one going from the 27th of November through to the 3rd of December, and it's a little bit above average through that week. So again, a cooling trend takes place, but not, I have to emphasise, it's not a cold scenario coming up on this model. It's just seeing temperatures reverting from an exceptionally mild start to something closer to average. Precipitation anomalies look like this. The coming week is significantly wetter than average, so exceptionally mild and wet is the signal for the coming week. The next weekly period still looking wetter than average through most parts of the country. The third weekly period looking like this, and again hinting at being a bit wetter than average, although we're near normal, and we're losing the signal a little bit as well as we go through to this third week period. We usually do that with precipitation. Sea starts to get weaker, but overall probably still a little bit wetter than average. And then the final weekly period between 27th to the 3rd of December, again hinting at being a bit wetter than average once more. So quite a wet period coming up if these charts are right, and starting exceptionally mild, becoming cooler later. And we can see this on the CFS city temperature forecast website, weatherweb.net. You can find it to weatherweb on the links page. This is for Birmingham. We're starting off very mild. The dates are on the bottom of the chart, of course, with the temperature scale on the side. So we're starting off somewhere around here between 15 and 18 Celsius. That's very, very mild indeed for this point of the year. But you notice there is a cooling trend clearly taking place here as we go along through November. Obviously, it's a little bit up and down, so some days go milder. But overall, the trend is downwards here, and particularly so at the end of the month, actually. So this is the 1st of December just here, by which time we're actually in a cold air mass. The temperature scale is on the side, as I say, and barely above freezing for a day or two at the start of December. Not sure about that, but clearly there's a downwards trend going on there through the second half of November into the start of December, and then we stay generally quite chilly really through the first half of December. This takes us up to around the 16th of December just here. Overall temperature's probably not all that far from average. This is 6 Celsius, and you can see we're not all that far from that, maybe a little bit under it as we go into the first half of December. So perhaps a little bit cooler than average, to be honest, by the time you get through to December. So that's how it's looking for today. That's a very long way off, of course, December, but that's how it's looking for today. We're starting off exceptionally mild. We're probably going to get a cooling trend in the second half of the month. Whether we go cold, I'm not entirely certain about that, but I think we will cool from where we are now. Basically, I think through the coming week, we're going to be about as mild as we can possibly get at this time of year, so the only way really will be downwards. So a bit of a cooling trend through November and start of December, very unsettled as well, with many bouts of rain coming through. That's how it's looking at the moment then. We'll do the weekend forecast tomorrow, so come back to that. Also tomorrow will be Can 6 Saturday in the evening, when we'll look 6 months ahead with the long-range Canadian model. That'll be tomorrow evening. Alright, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.